y'all know that they are all here today, and they are very protective, and they don't fight fair, so let's keep it nice. And before I begin, I want to start by expressing my appreciation for all of y'all coming today, all of my patience. Your kind words, your letters, your messages have meant so much to me. To my awesome employees, somehow have stood by me and not quit during all this. And I've been lucky enough to bring on two awesome new nurses. I've got Jennifer Bridges here. As y'all know, Jennifer stood up to Methodist Hospital, and Kimberly Peoples. Another nurse who stood up to the medical clinic of Houston. And both of those nurses, as you know, have exercised their right not to let other people decide what gets injected into their bodies. That's right. I also want to thank the people around the world that I've never met who have reached out with nice messages and kind words and have drowned out all the other people who are trying to take me down. I want to thank my attorney, Steve Mitby, who's coming out right now, for helping me navigate all this craziness, and my publicist, Wayne Dolcefino, for also helping me stand up against all the media outrage. So 2 months ago in November, Houston Methodist launched me into the public spotlight by telling the world that they were suspending my privileges for supposedly spreading dangerous misinformation about COVID. Houston Chronicle joined in that effort, and since then I've had a lot of people publicly comment that I should lose my license. These people don't know me, they're strangers. One of the people in particular, Ariana Garcia, is a journalist for the Houston Chronicle. And 3 days ago, she published a story entitled it, "Former Houston Methodist Doctor Still Has Her License Despite Continuing to Spread COVID-19 Misinformation." Shame on her. Shame on her. Shame on her. Ariana does not know me.
Hashtag not journalism.
Yeah, Ariana does not know me. She never bothered to ask me to comment on this article before she published it. And neither do any of the other people who have called for my license to be removed. So I want to tell y'all what it takes to get into this spot right here. And it's not an easy journey. It's not easy to get a medical license. My path took 13 years of higher education. I had to make straight A's. Residency was the 5 hardest years of my life, mentally, physically, emotionally. But I did learn a lot, and one of my most valuable lessons was to take a critical view of pharmaceutical companies and not be the first person to prescribe the newest and latest drug until it has stood the test of time. And that has served me well when looking at COVID-19 and how we're treating it. Also, one of my favorite attendees at Stanford, he told me that we need to be wary of any new vaccines that come out and not to follow the herd, to take things with a critical view. I also learned about the culture of these big academic institutions. And they're rigid, they're hierarchical, and they breed conformity. And I knew that after residency, that was not the kind of practice I wanted to be surrounded in. Thank God. So, in the following years, I had kids, and that experience gave me a different perspective on the doctor-patient relationship. I had 4 boys in 5 years. So I was basically, I was a patient for 5 years straight. And that was eye-opening. I learned what a inefficient, impersonal, confusing healthcare system we have. And when I started this clinic, I was determined to do things differently. I have no financial ties with any third parties. I do not contract with insurance companies. I don't contract with the government. I do not take Medicare. I have no financial ties with hospitals and no financial ties with pharmaceutical companies. And God bless you. The only people I work for are my patients, and I treat them the way I would want to be treated.
Thank you.
I'm also a strong believer in transparency, and I list all my prices on my website, and I list all my clinical data on my website. My ENT and sleep medicine practice morphed into this COVID center in response to my patients' needs and wants. To date, or actually in the last 6 months even, I have treated over 2,000 people successfully as outpatients for COVID. And I have one of these wonderful patients here today who is just now recovering from COVID. And if she had taken the traditional route, she would be in the hospital or worse right now. And she has graciously agreed to tell you her experience. Her name is Sylvia Anderson.
Before I began to share with you my experience, I like to bend my knee and bow before the King. Give me this right now.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God.
Yes.
It is because of Him that I live.
Yes.
It is because of Him that I move. And it is because I came to these doors that I am alive. When I got here, my oxygen level was 82. I could barely talk. I could barely walk. But I came in. I didn't have a full appointment. But as our Father would have it, Dr. Bowden was here. And Jennifer. Jennifer told her my condition, and she came immediately, and she began to administer the meds that I needed. And so I live today because of the grace of God and because of Dr. Bowden and her staff.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And, unfortunately, we don't have monoclonal antibodies. So I was able to treat her despite that. I gave her high-dose IV steroids. I gave her high-dose IV vitamin C. I gave her other vitamins. And I gave her high-dose ivermectin. She said, you want me to take 20 of those? I said, yes. And then we laughed about how hard it is to get it out of the package, but she did it. And we did that for several days in a row. And then this past weekend, she was able to stay home and rest. And here she is today, doing great.
All right.
I think we all know that early COVID treatment works. It saves lives. And I'm not going to be silenced, intimidated, or bullied by Houston Methodist, Houston Chronicle, or anyone else who wants to target physicians that question the narrative.
That's right.
Medical freedom has been hijacked, by hospitals, big pharma, insurance companies, and the federal agencies. Doctors, this is our time. We need to stand up and save our profession. patients, ask yourself, do you want doctors that respect your right to informed consent and respect your right to try? Or do you want those that follow the dictates of hospitals, insurance companies, and federal agencies? Media companies and the bullying of physicians that don't follow the narrative, and hospitals and governments that are unwilling to share important data about the vaccines and about COVID treatments have bred mistrust amongst the public.
Yeah.
Methodist Hospital is part of this problem. They have chosen secrecy over transparency. They have listed on their website 2 of their key core values are integrity and accountability, yet they won't share their data with us. The Freedom of Information Act and the Texas Business Code require nonprofits like Methodist Hospital to reveal their data. I have made formal requests and received nothing, but we have lots of questions. We want to know, of all the 1 million+ people that you have vaccinated, how many of those have had an adverse reaction, and what are they?
Yes.
It's the highest number ever.
Why is it Channel 2 asking these questions? Exactly. And then of all the people who have recently been admitted with COVID, how many of those people are fully vaccinated? How many of your fully vaccinated employees are having breakthrough cases? And of the 2,879 patients that have died in your hospitals, how many of them were refused early treatment? Financially, we have a lot of questions. In 2019, Methodist Hospital reported over $4 billion in assets. This was before COVID. Let's see what they've done since COVID. How much have your executives profited from the COVID windfall? Do you have any financial relationships with the vaccine companies? How much are you making from the vaccines? How much have you been rewarded by giving remdesivir? And what have your complications been from giving remdesivir? Because they have not responded to my request for information, I've decided to take legal action against Methodist. I want to make this clear, I'm not seeking any financial gains from this or personal gain. I'm simply seeking the truth, which we all deserve.
Yeah.
So I am open to any questions.
Doctor, obviously this has been a polarizing issue on many fronts. Has there been support that you've seen from other doctors nationwide that have reached out to you following this case? And if you can you provide us with some sort of context as if there appears to be any kind of, you have state health commissions, right? You have state medical boards. Is there a discussion among other doctors with you to try to address some of the facts that you're presenting on your website to the public on a more larger scale?
Yeah, I mean, there's a growing movement. I'm connected with doctors all over the world who believe the same thing as I do. There was a declaration signed by 16,000 physicians around the world supporting what I believe in, early COVID treatment and questioning the vaccines. So yes, there's a big network. Next weekend, there's a big march in Washington. January 23rd, I will be there. It's a peaceful march. And there'll be lots of speakers, people, Peter McCullough, all those types of speakers there. So it's growing. I have hope that the truth will come out. It just may take some more time.
What is this talking?
Sorry.
What is this talking?
What
is this talking? This experience of getting thrust into this situation. What is it?
What's it cost me? I can't hear you with your mask on.
Sorry.
Taught me. What is it?
What is this talking? Obviously, you got thrust into this
Oh,
situation.
because it taught me. Okay. It's it's been hard to digest. It's happened so fast. It's hard to even digest. But I'm plugging along, and I'm standing up for what I believe in, and it actually just sort of comes naturally to me. I'm kind of wired that way, but it hasn't defeated me. If anything, it's just made me stronger.
Amen.
Jack.
What do you want, in your opinion, to change? What do you want to change by the end of 2022? What do you want?
Excellent question. Excellent question.
From what it looks like now, what do you want to look like at the end of 2022?
God, there's a long list, but at first, get rid of media censorship. Mainstream media cover both sides. Both sides deserve to be heard. So I thank y'all for coming out today. I think there's got to be medical freedom, as I talked about, and doctors can't be scared to question the narrative. I think ivermectin needs to stop being such a dirty word. I don't understand why it's such a safe drug. I don't understand how it's become so controversial. And then we need to see more data. We need the vaccine data to be very transparent, more transparent than it is. And let patients make informed decisions and not have the government telling you what you have to have injected into your body. I mean, it's an individual choice.
Two questions. Hi, Dr. Brennan. I have two questions. I just printed this out from the dailymed.nlm.nih.gov website, and it lists ivermectin as stromatol having a human prescription drug label, packager being Merck. So it can be used for humans. Of course, we know the news, social media, Facebook is listing it as being a horror store or so on and so forth.
Right.
Why are they refusing to acknowledge that ivermectin per .gov website can be used for humans?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are lots of medications that have applications in animals and humans. So that argument is completely worthless. Yeah, I mean, it's a safe drug. It's time tested. I will not be prescribing any of these new drugs coming out for COVID. They're not time tested like ivermectin. And until they can prove to me that they're safe, I will not be prescribing those.
So I actually do have one more. It's a related question. I went just really quickly through PubMed.gov. If anyone wants to go to that website, PubMed.gov, did a really quick search, found a study. A 5-day course of ivermectin for the treatment of COVID may reduce the duration of illness. Found a second study, ivermectin, a new candidate therapeutic against SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19. Then there's a third study, antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties of ivermectin and its potentially used in COVID-19. So there are studies that show that ivermectin is very useful against COVID. Why are the likes such as Facebook and whatnot saying that it's misinformation to say that ivermectin can be used to fight COVID?
Well, why is a good question, because, I mean, there are more than just 3 studies supporting the use of ivermectin. So it makes you wonder why. Is there some ulterior motive that is going on?
I have a question for you.
Okay, ladies first.
Wouldn't you agree that when they found a positive side effect of Viagra, that they eventually moved that into mainstream for its other positive side effects? If we're finding a positive side effect of ivermectin or any other natural form-derived medication, which they turned into medication, shouldn't we be listening to educated doctors who are seeing that positive change and treat patients accordingly for the positive changes that it's working in?
Exactly. It's not financially lucrative to use repurposed drugs. So. Okay.
Are you aware that Houston Methodist early on took a survey of all their employees if they would take the COVID vaccine at no charge? the majority of them answered they would not take it, then they offered them a stipend of $500 each.
Oh, yes.
They changed the whole thing around. If I'm not mistaken, Houston Methodist Hospital paid out over $13 million to their employees to take the COVID vaccine, and now they're demanding they take the booster or they will be fired by March 31st.
Yes,
Are you aware of that?
yes, very well aware of that. Thank you for pointing that out.
That's disgusting.
You have a question?
I talk about it. Have you noticed any doctors that, let's say, used to not question the danger of the vaccines and that sort of thing, that have since changed their mind to start doing so?
Me?
I mean, but other besides yourself.
Oh yes, there are people, but they're quiet about it because of what happens when
Would
you
you say
speak
it's a lot
out.
or a big number?
I mean, it's hard for me to estimate, but there's 16,000 out there who have been willing to sign their name. There are probably more that we just don't know about. But
I have a question.
oh yes,
I'm just curious about the accessibility of ivermectin now. I know that monoclonal antibodies are being restricted, but is ivermectin still available?
It is, but you have to jump through hoops. I can't send a prescription to Walgreens, CVS, HEB, Kroger, any of those. I have to go to compounding pharmacies. I have patients worried that's going to show up on their record and that they're going to be, penalized for that by their doctor is going to see it. I mean, it's ridiculous, and insurance companies won't pay for it, and it's become a very expensive drug because of that. I mean, it's typically very inexpensive, but because of all these hoops, it's become very expensive.
Can you talk more about the lawsuit you're going to file?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Steve handle that.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. My name is Stephen Mitby. I'm Dr. Bowden's attorney. I'm proud to represent this doctor here who is standing up for freedom. She's standing up for patient choice. She's standing up for early treatment of people with COVID-19, and she's standing up for the right to try. If we had more doctors like this in Houston and throughout the United States, I suspect that the death toll and the health toll from COVID would be a lot lower. The reason why I'm so proud to represent the reason why I'm so proud to represent Dr. Bowden is because she's standing alone, and she has the courage to stand up to hospitals and government and institutions that are denying the people of this country the right to early treatment and the right to try safe drugs off-label that have been shown to reduce the symptoms of COVID-19. That's why Dr. Bowden is calling for transparency from Houston Methodist, and will be calling for transparency from other institutions as well, to show why it is that they're so against these early treatments, why they're denying doctors the right to prescribe and the right to use early treatments that have been considered safe and effective for years, like ivermectin. Dr. Bowden is filing a lawsuit to achieve that transparency and to require Houston Methodist to follow its obligations under Texas law to disclose financial information and disclose data about side effects. That's all she's doing. She's not seeking a penny in compensation for this. She's not seeking damages. She's simply asking for transparency and for following the law. And so I think everybody in Houston should be proud of what she's doing, standing up for people who have not had a voice in this matter.
Were there any negotiations beforehand or conversations with Houston Methodist prior to the lawsuit being filed?
Sure. Dr. Bowden and her press representative, Mr. Wayne Dolcefino, sent letters by certified mail to Houston Methodist requesting this information, invoking the relevant Texas statutes requiring them to do so. They didn't receive a response, and so the next step is to enforce those obligations under the law.
Did Houston Methodist, as we know, many agencies in Texas do this, did they kick it to the AG for an opinion, or did they just not respond? Nothing way?
No response.
Got it.
Doctor, why is it so important for you to know that data? Why is it so important?
Well, first of all, they're required to by law. So why is it so hard for them to not give it to us? I mean, what are they hiding? Second of all, I mean, there's just, if the public is going to trust these big institutions, then they're going to have to they're going to regain the trust of the public, and this is a way to do it. If they believe in what they're pushing on people, then show us the data, and we can decide. But there's just not enough data out there. I mean, it's just severely lacking.
Hopefully they won't take 75 years to provide the information.
Ask you a question. In your experience, what's the difference in efficiency and safety profile between hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin?
I lean towards ivermectin. Well, I start with ivermectin first, just because hydroxychloroquine can, in very rare cases, have some side effects. But I will add hydroxychloroquine for the more severe cases, and withhold it for people that may have an underlying condition where there might be a risk. So.
Okay, one more question.
Governor Abbott was involved in the rollout with Methodist Hospital System. Obviously, there's been this position that you have now. And by any chance, have you reached out to the governor and to his office about asking for the transparency, considering the fact that there's been a relationship between Methodist and the governor's office?
We haven't gotten to that step yet. But it's
Fire
a good idea.
Quick follow. Is that a step you're looking at?
I am now, yes.
I want to add one thing to that. I personally reached out to Abbott's office back in May, and they told me there was nothing they could do to help the employees. They stepped away, did nothing to help. He did not put out his action until we put so much pressure on him that it required him to do something. He did not care prior to that. He is okay. He is perfectly okay with letting everyone get fired over it. He did not want to help anybody.
What's your name, ma'am?
Jennifer Bridges.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Jennifer Bridges.